Every story matters. Every voice counts. Because the gospel is true and freedom in Christ is real. The world is searching for hope, for truth, for something greater. And that's why we're here, to share stories of grace, redemption, and transformation. Because everyone needs to hear it. Everyone needs to know. Jesus sets us free. This is my story.
All right, Annabelle. We are here with Annabelle today, and she's going to give her testimony. Can you just introduce yourself and then just wherever it starts for you?
My name is Annabelle. I am 25 years old. I don't know what you want me to say in the introduction, but
That's okay.
I, um, yeah, I'm very blessed by the things that God has done in my life, and
Mhm.
very excited to share my testimony today. Um, I was raised in a very Christian Seventh-day Adventist household my entire life. Adventism runs very deep in my family. I don't know the number of generations that some people are able to be like, oh, I'm like 7 generations Seventh-day Adventist.
So you
I'm
don't
just
know
a
if
Seventh-day Adventist.
You don't know if Ellen White is your cousin or like distant sister or anything?
I highly doubtful, if I'm being honest, because Ellen White was not Hispanic, and I run deep in like Hispanic
There you go.
Adventism.
There you go.
So unlikely, but
Right.
I was born and raised in the South in Georgia and grew up in a family of 6. I have 3 older siblings. So that was interesting being the youngest of 4. And I would say that my relationship with God at a young age was mainly it was very surface level. It was very how do I say it? Just like it wasn't personal in any way. It was just routine, I guess is the way that I would say it. I go to church
Mhm.
and I do what I need to do, and God was God, and I knew of him and I knew he loved me, but I didn't really have that experience or like really relate to it. And he was just there. However, growing up in the Seventh day Adventist church that I did, I was exposed, whether it was explicitly said, I don't know, or whether it was implied, that I started to believe this understanding that like my whole life I was just going to be battling against sin. And my whole life I was going to have to like struggle against it and really like have a hard time. And that the older people in my church are just like they're more weathered in it, and
Oh,
they know the struggle and they're like better at fighting it, and someday I'd like reach a point of like spiritual maturity that they did and able to like fight sin the way
yeah.
that they did. And that was just the belief that I had, and yet at the same time, I had the practical, well, maybe not practical, but I had the head knowledge that God loved me. I had the head knowledge that church was good and that I should refrain from doing certain things in my life. I would say I wouldn't I wouldn't say that I grew up a heavy sevy, if you know what the expression is. Like I wasn't like a super heavy Seventh-day Adventist,
Yeah.
but
I've
I
never heard
did
it
grow
said
up
like that
in
before, but that's funny. Yeah.
oh, oh, I think Justin says it a lot, or
Yeah.
maybe it's Rich, but I didn't grow up a heavy sevy. So I didn't have a lot of those weights. And yet at the same time, I did grow up as a Seventh day Adventist in a Hispanic church. And so that came with certain expectations and just like understandings of what's okay and what's not. And
Mhm.
that was just kind of the life that I grew up in. I didn't really know the Lord's voice, and the thought of God like speaking directly to me was not even a thought. It was always the understanding that he would speak to me through a verse, or he would speak to me through a sermon, or like, something, but like him speaking directly to me or receiving a word from the Lord directly
Mhm.
was not, excuse me, was not a consideration. And that's just kind of how I understood it. I think I got baptized when I was like 14. Fun fact, I had a mariachi band at my baptism because
Oh,
the night before this mariachi band came and like did this whole like concert. And I think I spontaneously was like, yeah, I want to get baptized. I don't even think I did baptismal classes or anything, as my religion often requires, um, or the religion I was raised in. And so, yeah, I had a mariachi band at my baptism. I did have a very strange understanding of baptism, and it has thus evolved since then. But at
Yeah.
the time, my understanding was like, it's my one get out of jail free card. It was my one chance to like wipe the slate clean. So when I
Oh,
like
yeah.
got dunked, when I was like, I took the dunk. When I came up, it was like I was pure, and I needed to like stick to that as much as possible for as long as I could.
Oh no.
And
Yeah.
so I remember the first time that I like, I don't know what I did. Maybe I like got mad at my sibling or like lied or did something. I don't even know. But I felt so bad because I was like, well, there goes my one ticket. Like I've lost my one chance to like wipe the slate clean. Guess it is what it is.
Gotta go do it again.
Um, gotta go get dunked again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my understanding of baptism. Yeah, and that was my kind of relationship with God. It was very just mundane, very surface level, very, very traditional, very like hand me down and cookie cutter. Like, just- I don't know. There was nothing revolutionary happening in my life, and I just felt this. Yeah, I was being raised in the house that I did. I had this understanding that I had to read my Bible and pray every day. And if I didn't read my Bible and pray every day or like do my devotions every day, then like I'm like God's like mad at me and he's like disappointed in me. And it wasn't like super deep though. It wasn't like I carried this deep weight. However, when I received freedom later on, to give a little spoiler, I then realized how heavy of a burden it felt.
Hmm.
But during my childhood, I was just like, this is what's done. This is how I'm being raised. This is what my parents told me to do. I need to read my Bible and pray every day. And like, if I didn't, like, I lost my streak. Like,
So then
you know,
you would see like your devotional time and your prayer and Bible time as more of a chore than an actual
sure.
just like
Yeah.
I
Oh,
enjoy
100%.
this and want to talk to God type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It 100% was that. But I think it wasn't like I acknowledged it as a chore. It's just what I was raised to do. Like there was no personalization in my relationship with God. It was all very what I was told to do, and this is what's done.
Yeah.
Like I never veered out of that. I never even considered veering out of that. It just was what it was.
Hmm.
But yet I, upon like in hindsight, I'm able to see the Lord's movement in my life and the Lord telling me certain things in my life. Um, for example, one of them was where I wanted to go to high school. Unfortunately, I grew up in a town where they didn't have an Adventist high school that was nearby. And being raised in the denomination that I was, I had to go to an Adventist academy and an Adventist high school and an Adventist college and an Adventist elementary school and just all of it. And so
Hmm.
I was very lucky enough to have an Adventist K-8 school, but they didn't have a high school. And my parents were not comfortable with sending me to a Christian school. So the options were online or a boarding school.
Hmm.
And boarding school was out of the question, especially for his daughters. Like my dad is just very protective, I guess is the word. He loves us a lot and he cares about us a lot. And so he didn't want to send us to a boarding school. So I spent my freshman year online, and that was a nightmare. It was so bad. I hated every single
Hmm.
minute of it because my sister was my roommate, and my sister was my roommate in the sense that like we had the same room at home, and she was also my classmate, and she was also my everything. Like there was nobody else in my life except her, and she and I didn't get along. And so it was just constant bickering and fighting and tension and passive aggressiveness and just it was just gross and it was so annoying.
It's like I
But
love you, but I do
I
not want to be around you 24/7.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, 100%. And so I proof it. I wouldn't say I would not recommend this method, but it did work for me. So let it be what it is. I definitely threw a fit and was like, I want to go to GCA. And then finally, my dad was like, he and my mom had this conversation, and she like convinced him to let us go to GCA. So it was a boarding school in Georgia,
Mm.
and I did my sophomore through senior year there, and I really loved it. And for some reason, like I felt like I really wanted to go to the boarding school. Like I couldn't pinpoint and say, "Oh yeah, it was the Lord's leading," but I was like, I definitely don't want to do this for another year. And I like Christian, high school is not an option, so I want to go to boarding school. And I would definitely say that that was probably the most notable thing in my childhood that I can recall. That's the Lord's leading in my life at that age.
Hmm.
And when I went to boarding school, it was there that I was able to come across this university in Nebraska. And mind you, this is another wrinkle in my dad's very carefully curated plan for all his kids, because all his three older children went to Southern in Tennessee. And so, in my mind and in my parents' mind, that was the default. That was the natural next step. I wasn't going to go anywhere else. And then Union popped up on my radar. And immediately I was like, this is where I need to go. I just felt like this calling to go there. I looked at their education program, and that's where I really wanted to go. And when I told my dad, it was not received well. But, I thought if I threw a fit once and it worked, then I can throw a fit again and that'll work. So naturally, once again, would not recommend the method.
Yeah.
Do not practice at home.
Yeah.
I once again I threw a fit, and a little time later, my dad went with me to visit the University of Nebraska, and he finally felt comfortable with it and was like, "Yeah, okay." And so then I went to Union to study elementary education, and all the while in high school and in college, I would say my relationship with God was very much the same as upbringing. Like it was very just nonchalant, just very traditional. Like I wasn't even thinking about it, robotic in a way. Like it wasn't personal in any way.
Mm.
And I started to feel a little bit more of the heaviness of reading my Bible and praying every day. And that sort of like it was being instilled in me from a young age. And I'm not really doing that. And I should be doing that because like that shows my healthy relationship with God. And like it essentially is like the health meter with like me and God. And so it started to feel a little bit heavier the older that I got. And in my high school, I was involved in as many things as I could. I had a lot of different hobbies and interests. And in my college as well, some leadership interests and various things. I was involved a lot in campus ministries. There
Mm.
was a lot of just me kind of going through life trying to figure out who I am. And being the person that God created me to be, which is a beautiful thing. It's kind of it the way that I think about it is the quote from Spider-Man, which is like, with great power comes great responsibility. Is that Spider-Man?
I don't know. I've seen a
I
lot of
think that's
Spider-Man. I
Spider-Man.
should know
I
this.
think that that's I think that that's what the uncle says to Peter, right? Ooh, don't quote me on that.
With great power
Do
comes
not quote
great
me on that. Hold on.
responsibility.
I think so. Anyways, I think that's from Spider-Man. Maybe it's not. But anyways,
Yeah, Spider-Man's Uncle Ben. You're right.
woo! Let's go. I
Yeah,
remember
let's go.
something. Okay. So the way that God created me to be, for better and for worse, tends to be a very strong, emotionally in tune person. And when I mean strong, I do mean it in various ways. I mean it physically, but I mainly mean it like personality wise. Like I just have a very strong personality, and
Hmm.
I'm very expressive, and I have a lot of
Yeah.
emotions, and I feel them very deeply. I'm a very like sincere, authentic person.
Hmm.
And growing up, I just really wanted to be loved, and I really wanted to be seen, and I really wanted to be accepted, and I wanted somebody to choose me and hang out with me and want to be with me through life. So
Mhm.
naturally, as a result of that longing, I wanted to find best friends and I wanted to have a best friend for life. And thankfully, I did not veer into the relationship
Yeah.
realm. So I did not seek that sort of like I didn't want to like satisfy that longing through a significant other. It was mainly through like wanting a best friend or wanting a sister.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I'm not super close to my siblings, so though I was raised with them and my parents did an amazing job, I just never like grew very close to them, and my sister and I never really got past the fighting. So we're just not really close. And so a lot of who I was and what I was looking for and what I was longing for tended to lean towards I just want to be seen and I want to be loved and I want to be fully accepted and I want somebody to just be with me through life. And being the personality that I wasn't like a natural magnet. I would say like maybe more of a deterrent to the average person because I just had such a strong personality.
Mm.
And
You think people didn't like you because of that, or?
I think people liked me because I think people liked me, but
Right.
I had a very specific role to play. I had a very specific like
In your own mind, you're saying, right? Like
no,
you
I
had.
think in their mind, the way that they related to me was just
Oh,
very specific. Like I just had a very specific role that I think a lot of people related to me.
yeah.
And it wasn't the way that I wanted to be related to.
Gotcha.
And I think that that role tended to be very like little sister. We kind of make fun of her. And I like learned to see that as a sort of like, oh, this is how I fit in here. Is like I'm kind of
Yeah.
like picked on, but like they love me, so they pick on me, so that like
Oh.
that's how I fit. Or I was very organized, or I was very like energetic and creative, and so like people would see me as somebody who was that, and so like I would think of adults who wanted to utilize my gifts and my talents and my passions for various things on campus. But like when it came to friends, it was very much that sort of like bickering, or I was just so much that people just kind of was like they kind of just didn't want to get close to me.
Mhm.
And that was not fun, but I wasn't like super cognitive of it. I was very aware of my longing to want to be loved and seen and fully appreciated, but I wasn't aware of the fact that that's how people were relating to me. And so I often tried to seek this sort of like best friend with my roommates, and that did not necessarily work. And then finally, one year, um, when Love Reality came to visit our campus. So Love Reality, I don't know if it was yeah, it was Love Reality tour at the time, I guess. It
This
was
is
very early
Nebraska.
on.
This is Nebraska.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was super early on. 2019. Okay. So disclaimer, I'm specifically not using years because my memory is that of an 80-year-old woman. It's so bad.
Huh.
So I'm not using years for a reason. So I don't actually remember what year it was. It could have been
Well,
2019, could have been
well, I'll
2018,
tell you
could
right
have
now,
been 2020.
Annabelle. Anything after 2020 feels like a flash. So I'm with you on that because it's
Yeah.
2026 and I feel like it was just 2017, like yesterday. So
Yeah. I feel you. I feel you. I don't remember the year, but Love Reality Tour did come to Lincoln. And at the time, I had known of or knew of Tyler Morrison. And I don't remember how I knew him. So don't come for my life. But I don't remember how I knew him, but he did invite me once. He was like, we were walking in the foyer of the church and he was like, you should come. It's like super cool. It was like fun vibes. We were at a coffee shop the other night and it was like super cool. And I was like, oh wow, that sounds awesome. Like maybe, who knows? I was like really overwhelmed with school at that time. And once again, my relationship with God was just very much the same. Very robotic, very just normal, you know. But I also, at that specific moment that Tyler was encouraging me to go to this Bible study, I was feeling that sort of heaviness of, I'm not reading my Bible and praying. This is the problem. The meter, like the health meter on my relationship with God is low. And like, so I was feeling like really down, and school was a lot at the time, but he invites me to do this thing. And I was like, yeah, I don't know, maybe. And then as we're walking in the foyer, he just stops. And I remember this so clearly. Of all the things I can't remember, I do remember this. He turns and he looks at me and he goes, if you're tired of being lukewarm, you need to come to this Bible study. And
Eesh.
I was just like, I just looked at him and I was like,
Uh,
yeah, sure. Okay,
oh
maybe.
my.
Like I was like, I think at the time I wouldn't have identified as lukewarm. Being raised in the faith that I was aware of this sort of like end time prophecy of like the lukewarm church and how like the lukewarm church is not what we want to be and all those things. So like I knew about it, but I never really identified with it. So I was like, yeah, okay, maybe we'll see. Who knows? And the next day happens. And I don't know if it was the next day. Well, who knows? But it comes the night of the Bible study. And it happens to be on the campus in the like the bordering the campus, there are like campus houses, and they're often either to like staff members or like they're rented out to students and things like
Mm.
that. And one of the houses was a staff member, and he was hosting the Bible study that night. And my friend who was also going texted me and was like, hey, I'm going, do you want to come? And I was like, I don't want to do schoolwork. Sure, I'll go. I was like, why not?
Right.
So I walk on over to this guy's house and I walk inside, and there's just so many people there that I don't know. And I am an extrovert, but when I'm feeling really, really down, I am not an extrovert. When I'm feeling super like I feel really bad for myself, or I'm like low in emotions, the last thing I want is to be surrounded by a lot of people. It's just too much for me. And so here I am at this event on the brink of tears because I'm overwhelmed with school. I feel like my relationship with God is just, that's it. I'm going to hell. And here I am at this event where there's a bunch of people I don't know. And so I'm like, "Ugh, why am I even here? Like, I don't want to be here." And they start singing songs. And while they're singing the songs, I start crying because I can't
Mm.
keep it in. And then Jonathan stands up and he starts talking. And he's just talking about stuff, man, stuff that's not new, stuff that's not in the Bible. He opened the Bible and he started reading. And he started reading in Romans, and it absolutely blew my mind that in the Bible it says you are free from sin. Like, you're not going to be.
You are.
You're not, maybe one day. You're not having to fight sin for the rest of your life. Like what happened at the cross 2000 years ago did it. Like, you're good. And once again, it's not licensed to sin, and we're not going to get into that. But
Right.
I heard that, and I interpreted that as this sort of like, I literally felt relief in my body
Mm.
because this fundamental understanding that I had accepted that for the rest of my life I was going to have to be battling sin
Hmm.
was wrong. Oh,
Yeah.
thank
Do you think that had
God.
something to do with why you were not spending time with God? Like that
Like,
that that super consistency because you were worried about fighting sin and that
um, maybe. I think that it just I don't think so, only because once again, I didn't really think too deep into it. It was all very surface
right,
level. It
true,
was
true.
very much like I needed to read, I did not read. Like, a outcome not achieved, health meter down. Like, that's it. Like, it
Yeah,
was just very like
gotcha.
very cut and dry, very transactional. I wasn't looking into it in a philosophical way. But when he said that, it released me of this weight that I didn't even realize I was carrying. And It was just so good. And we had several other nights. I remember one of the nights was the same night that Morgan got free. Excuse me, Morgan, who is married to Tyler, who was
Mhm.
the one who invited me. She also got free on that night, and that was really cool. So she and I have like freedom birthdays. It's kind of cool. And I remember one of the nights I had gone back to school and I talked to the chaplain, who a lot of the people in the room either knew about or were familiar with because they knew some of the people there or were associated with the campus and the school. And he had warned me of some of the things that were being said and was just like, be careful, blah, 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 X, Y, and Z. And I was like, yeah, me being the super impressionable college, aged person that I was like, yeah, well, but like now I'm confused because what he said, there's something there because I felt that. There's
Mhm.
something real there. But what you're saying, a person I trust, a person that is notable on campus, it's not lining up. So I go to Jonathan the next day and it's the evening and people are gathering in the house and I go to Jonathan and I'm like, okay, but like Mr. This said this and this and this. Every single rebuttal that I had, every single one. Jonathan would say something and I'd be like, okay, but what about this? Every single one, he'd be like, turn to this verse, turn to that verse,
Okay.
turn to this verse. Every single one he had a verse for. And I couldn't argue with that. And then he just looks at me, he's like, do you want to believe? I'm like, yeah. He's like, then believe. I was like, all right, fair. I was like, yeah, okay. And yeah, that was kind of the start of, I would say, a personal relationship with the Lord. That was the start of when I actually got to know the Lord
Mm.
as my father, as somebody who actually loves me, not just in theory, not just cognitively, not just like head knowledge, like heart knowledge. And since then, a lot has changed. So much has changed. But it was the start of that journey in that group of people that allowed me to build a lot of foundational truths. I'm very blessed, for better and for worse, that I didn't have a super philosophical relationship with the Lord at a young age because there were a lot of fundamentals that didn't have to be rewritten because they were never written in the first place. And
Mm.
so now I had the privilege of actually experiencing a lot of these things in a way that's real, in a way that's biblical, in a way that changes lives. And it gets to be my foundation.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful for that because it has shown up in more ways than one in the way that I go through the trials and tribulations of life. I was just telling Ron, I don't know what their last name is. I don't know, Ron, he's great. I was just telling Ron at the in-person event that we just had in Cali about how some of the things I was having a really hard time with. And I was reflecting on how grateful I was that even though I was sitting there in the presence of the Lord, just crying and begging and nearly yelling my heart out to him, not once did my foundational understanding of his love waver.
Mm.
And it was so steadfast to the point where I felt safe enough to come to him with all of those emotions, with the emotion of like, God, I'm kind of mad at you, even though he's done nothing to deserve my anger. Like he's done nothing but love me. And yet I don't feel scared of going to him and expressing those emotions. And it's just evidence of that foundational truth that I have, that he loves me no matter what, and that he's a safe place no matter what. And I'm
Mm.
very grateful for that. So since that encounter with the Lord, the group kind of stayed in Lincoln a little bit. Some of the team members stayed behind, and yeah, they started to like build a community in person, and we started to do Sabbath schools together. We started to do more Bible studies, and it really was discipleship. It really was edification. It really was growth. And there was a lot of call to actions that the Lord gave me during that time. Some of them included my sister. Some of them included people that were close to me. Some of them included like my bosses. And around that same time as well, the Lord blessed me with a friend that at the time I would have called her my best friend. Unfortunately, since then things have changed. But at the time, the Lord really gave me a beautiful blessing of of my best friend. And she received freedom around the same time as well. And it was really beautiful for us to be able to walk in that early
Mhm.
gospel refresh together,
Mhm.
because we were really able to practice a lot of the things we were hearing. We ended up being roommates. So
Wow.
naturally, when you end up being roommates, there comes issues and arguments. You're living with somebody else. You're
Yeah.
sharing a
All
space
the
with somebody
quirks
else.
start being
Oh,
shown.
all the things and all the annoyances and all the you're breathing too loud and just all those things just start coming out.
Yeah.
And as a result, a lot of the things we were hearing about just living out gospel, we were able to practice in our relationship. We were able to practice in our
Mm.
friendship. We were able to practice forgiveness and reconciliation. We
Yeah.
were able to practice peaceful peacemaking. We were able to practice how to navigate a conflict with somebody you love in a way that is respectful and honorable, in a way that sees them and treats them as fully loved. So there was a lot that that relationship brought me, and I'm very grateful to it because I learned a lot in that time. And it was towards the end of my college experience. I was graduating with elementary education. I had this plan in my head of what my life was going to look like. And one of the details of that plan was going back to Georgia to teach in that conference and or in the same school that my mom taught. So my mom is a teacher, and so I didn't even, once again, I didn't even consider a different thing. I think that tends to be a, I'm noticing that as a
Just in the moment type
pattern.
decision.
As a pattern, I'm noticing that as a pattern is like I there's a lot of things I never questioned. I just accepted
Hmm.
growing up. And a lot of that happened to be my relationship with God and how I related to him. Um, and another one of those things is what my life was going to look like and how it was
Hmm.
going to pan out. And so that was the plan until God came in. And I wouldn't say he came in; he was already there. But he started putting some billboards in my way.
Hmm.
And one of the loudest billboard was this one conference that I was able to do a mock interview with them. There's this opportunity that the education department puts on at Union where they bring a bunch of conferences together and they put them all in a room, and you kind of just like you walk around and sit down at the various tables and like do these sort of like mock interviews. You sit down with them, get to know them, they get to know you. You see if you're interested in working with them, they see if they're interested in working with you. And one of the ones that I sat down with was the Dakota conference. And I was able to talk with the superintendent, and I just instantly was like, oh, this is where I'm going to go. God made it very clear. I think there were various tips that were helpful in helping me distinguish that this was the Lord's moving in my life. But the bottom line was, I was like, yeah, this is where God wants me to go. So I spoke to the superintendent and said I would love to go there. She was like, oh, well, we have this one job. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. I would love to do that. And um, then I went out to visit South Dakota and looked at the school and was able to do an in-person conversation and interview and accepted the position. I did not expect it, but I was like with there was no doubt in my heart. Not a single grain of like sand was there doubt in my heart that this is where God wanted me to go. So I just full sended it. I was like, yeah, this is where I'm gonna go. I'm gonna live in South Dakota. I guess I don't know anybody there. I don't know anything about the state. Like respectfully, where even is it on the map? Like I don't know, those kind of things. I felt similarly about that when it came to Nebraska too. I'm like, bro, where even is that? But
Yeah.
when you know. And when I told my dad, that was, as history has proven, not received the best. And he, of course, once again, he loves me and he wants the best for me. But when I had told him I was going to do that, he was rather upset. And I think the thing that upset him was I didn't include him in the decision. And for him as a father, and with me being the person that I was, I guess, I don't know. He just the way that our relationship was, there was a lot of conversations that ended up concluding with a decision, not necessarily I made a decision and then we talk about it.
Hmm.
And I just told him once, I was like, Dad, I don't know what to tell you. I have peace about it. And he's like, well, I don't have peace about it. And I'm like, well, ask him for it. It's the same God. Like, there's only one of them. Like, he gave me peace about it. He's going to give you peace about it. Just ask him for it. And my dad was like, that's not how it works. I'm like, that's exactly how that works. Like, just ask
Like,
him for
what do you
it.
mean?
In my mind, this is super logical, like, makes sense. But everybody relates and everybody's on their own journey with the Lord, and that's okay.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I ended up moving to South Dakota and I taught there for 2 years. And there was a lot that I learned in those 2 years. I learned how to live by myself. I lived in my own apartment for the first time, had a lot of like it was like everybody's first year out of college is kind of like, oh, this is what adulting is like. That's kind of what my experience was. Paying my own bills, figuring out my own life, making my own decisions, just being an adult, an independent adult. And with it being in a state where I knew nobody and had no family within thousands of miles, maybe not thousands, that's a bit dramatic, hundreds of miles. I, I was just trying to learn who I was and become me as an adult. I made some really good community there. Oh, fantastic community there. Still some people in my life that I'm very, very close with and talk to on a regular basis. There's
Hmm.
just really good
Wow.
community there. I was very blessed with my experience in South Dakota. But that time only lasted for 2 years. And why? Bro, I don't know. Ask God. It's his plan. I'm just riding the waves. And it was towards the end of my 2 years that a position popped up for Oklahoma. Nope. Yeah. Was it? Wherever Wes is. I forgot where Wes
Wes is
is.
in Texas. He's in Dallas, but he might have been
No,
in.
now he is. He was previously,
I think he was
I think it
Oklahoma.
was, I think it was Oklahoma, OKC. I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
I'm almost positive.
Okay. So a job popped up there and I was like, yeah. I mean, I'm not really looking for a job right now. I didn't really think about moving, but I guess I was very comfortable in South Dakota. And I think that that was when the Lord was like, all right, time to shake it up. And so he popped that up and I applied for it and I did not get the position. But I think what it did is it opened my mind to the opportunity that, like, oh, I don't have to stay here forever. Like, I can go somewhere else. And once again, that was kind of not a part of the plan because I had a certain plan in my mind that, oh, I'm going to teach at this school for the next like 10 years and then maybe I'll leave. Well, that's not how that went.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of that understanding came from just what I was exposed to and surrounded to growing up. My mom has only taught in one school ever. And a lot of other teachers that I know have only ever taught in one school. And so in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm going to choose one school and there we go. I'm going to live there forever. That is not what happened. And so when the OKC job was not accepted, I started to be like, oh, well, maybe I want to teach somewhere else. And so I go to God and I'm like, God, where do you want me to go? You told me to go here. So where do you want me to go? And he turns to me and he's like, actually, I want you to know something that I trust you to make decisions. Like, I know you trust me, but I want you to know that, like, I actually trust you. And so wherever you want to go, figure it out. And I was like, oh, okay. Um, Not too scary because I'm like, oh, I can choose to teach wherever. That's kind of fun. So I start looking at jobs and knowing that the Lord's going to bless wherever I go. I'm looking with a sense of excitement and not really worry, which is I'm very grateful for. And I come upon two schools that I was interested in. I applied for one, I applied for the other. One of them, I was like, the more that I got in the interview process, the more that I was like, ugh, I'm not really sure that I'm the kind of teacher you're looking for. And that's okay. Um, but yeah, so eventually we reached a point in the process where I don't keep going, and I'm like, that's okay with me. The other school, I went through the process and I just kind of started falling in love with it more and more. I was like, oh wow, this is so exciting. It's in a state that's closer to home and it's a bigger school. I've been wanting to work in a bigger school, and it seems like a really good community. So I was really excited about it. So I accepted the position, and that moved me to North Carolina. And that's where I currently am state-wise. Like, I'm currently living in North Carolina. I don't know if I should have said that, but whatever. It's okay. Um,
Yeah.
whoopsie. I think my favorite part about choosing to come here was the excitement of knowing that God was going to bless me wherever I go, but also the excitement of knowing that this was good for me. Because one of the things that I think mainly God was teaching me in South Dakota was just like, let's get comfortable, in the sense of like, let's find a routine, let's learn to do life with sincerity and with vulnerability, and to do life in love, and let's get your roots planted. And then comes the time for me to move, and the Lord really just gave me this peace that was like, yeah, no, this is good for you. Like, this is how we grow. Like, you've been planted and now it's time to grow. And I went from the school in South Dakota, which was 20 students in the entire school.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
so that's K through 8.
Wow.
20 students in the entire school, right? To going to 20 students in one classroom. So it was a significant change for me,
Mm.
workload wise, and just like mental weight wise. Although in South Dakota I had responsibilities that were probably they weren't they were different from that of this school. Like, I didn't really have administrative responsibilities like I did in South Dakota. Now, I wasn't the head administrator. We had an actual like teaching principal, but I did help with whatever I could. So there was some responsibility there. It's different being in a classroom where you have 20 kids and it's just a bigger school. So I went from a school with 20 kids in total to a school with like nearly 200 kids. And I loved the transition. I was very excited about it because I wanted a bigger classroom. I mean, I think the average teacher's dream when they grow up surrounded by small classrooms is to have more kids. And so naturally for me, I was very excited about it. And come to find out, I start the year with 22 kids and I ended up the year with 26. And it was multi-grade still, so it was sixth and seventh grade,
Hmm.
and that's middle school, so it's not the easiest grade. But you might be like, well, it's
Yeah.
it's only 2 grades. I'm like, yeah, but
Middle
it's
schoolers
like
are tough.
middle schoolers are, they are a unique breed. Okay, they are a very unique breed. And in South Dakota, I taught fifth through eighth grade, but I
Mm.
only had at most 10 kids at a time. And so, because I only had at most 10 kids at a time, I was very easily able to manage the various needs of my kids. Because while it may be five, six, seven, eight, 4 grades, maybe even more than that, because you've got students that are blown high. Like, I had enough bandwidth to meet my kids where they were at.
Mm.
Now you've put me in a classroom with 26 kids, um, and they're 6th and 7th grade, which is 2 grades. And teaching multi-grade is just another beast. Mind you, on top of that, put 26 kids.
Mm.
And on top of that, put the various learning needs that each kid has and needs. It's a huge challenge, and it's a significant shift from what I was teaching. And so it started to weigh on me at the end of the first year. It really started to weigh on me hard. I didn't realize it, if I'm being honest. Like, I couldn't have, like, I felt a sort of shift towards the end of the year where I was like, huh, something's off. I'm not as gentle towards my kids. I'm not as
Mm.
patient towards my kids. I'm not as excited about this job. I go to bed and I'm still tired in the morning. Like, there's certain things that I'm like, like, the joy seems to be fading. And I couldn't tell you why, it just was.
Mm.
And I'm very grateful that I was able to be in therapy at that time. And I was talking to my therapist and I was just like, I don't know what this is, but it's like I feel this sort of like the ember, like the flame is just like it's disappearing. And I don't know why.
Mm.
Um and I really loved the team that I was in. I loved my classroom. I loved my kids. Oh, I had such an amazing group of kids. Those kids are bananas, but I love them so much. Love them so much. Oh, they're so crazy. And I also had other responsibilities on top of just teaching the subjects, because when you're in a multi-grade private school like the one I was in, you don't just teach one subject, you teach all the subjects. So you're teaching all the subjects to 2 grades, multiple levels within each grade, and 26 of them. And so it's a lot. And so towards the end of that first year, I started to feel that sort of like dimming within me. And I would talk to God about it. And even when I go to my journals and I read about it,
Mm.
I hear the desperation in my voice, in my writing, where I'm like, God, what is this? This is scaring me. Like, I
Mm.
don't know what this is. I don't know how to describe this. I don't know how to, like, fix this. I need to, like, push through this because this is, most teachers struggle. Every teacher is tired. That's not unique to
Mm.
me. So I'm like, telling myself, I need to push through. I need to figure this out. I need to, like, fix this. And I would talk to God and I would be asking him, like, God, please tell me what this is. Figure this out for me. Like, thank you so much that you love me, all those things. But just nothing was fixing this dimming that was within me. And the
Mm.
end of the year comes and I think, oh, it was just the end of the year. Most teachers are exhausted by the end of the year. So it must be the end of the year exhaustion. Come the summer and I go home and I spent June in my parents' house. And it was nice because, summer is like, you know, some people have very strong feelings about teachers getting summers off, but I'll say this, we deserve the summer
Oh
off
yeah.
because we are exhausted.
Yeah.
So when the summer comes, most teachers spend the first 2 to 3 weeks sick in June
Really.
because it is genuinely like it's like an on switch. Like, our body just realizes we don't have to be in fight or flight anymore. And it just, like, sort of
Wow.
crashes. And most teachers, the majority of teachers, are sick on, like, the first weeks of summer, even sometimes in Thanksgiving break or Christmas break, depending on how long their breaks are. Most teachers get sick. And so I'm, like, sick the first couple weeks and I'm thinking, I'm like, this is normal, whatever. But every single time I had to think about going back to school, just this intense anxiety just starts to weigh on me. And my mind starts racing and I start panicking. And I literally turn to my mom and I'm like, I don't want to go back to school. I don't want to go back to school. I don't want to go back to school. And my mom is hearing this and she's just like, what do you mean you don't go to bed? I was like, I don't want to, I don't know, but I can't, like, this feeling, this panic, this anxiety. I can't go back. I don't want to go back.
Mm,
But I signed a contract and I have to go back.
yeah.
So unfortunately for me and for many teachers, this is not unique to me. I was moved classrooms during the summer. And so I had to take a majority of my summer setting up and fixing my new classroom. I'm a part of one of those smaller schools where we don't have a maintenance team. We don't have
Mm,
people to come paint or fix our cabinets. If the cabinets need to be fixed, the teachers are going to fix them or it's not going to get done. If the walls need to be painted, the teachers need to paint or it's not going to get done. So I come July. I come July, I think it was like early July, maybe mid July. And I come so that I can start fixing my classroom, organizing my classroom, because unfortunately the classroom was not in the condition that I wanted it to be in. Was it livable? Sure. Was it teachable? Sure. But it wasn't in the condition that I wanted it to be in. And I really take pride in my spaces. I'm a very organized, like, minimalist, neat freak kind of person. And so, like, I love my spaces to be clean, to be neat, to be organized. That's just how I am. And so I knew it was going to take a lot of work. I already mentally prepared for that. And I think that that was a part of why going back to school felt so heavy, because it was like, I'm not just going back to lesson plan and teach again. Like, I just have so much to do. And it's just the panic and the anxiety and the exhaustion, all the
mm,
while still trying to recover from the previous year. So I go and I do what I need to do, and I set up the classroom and I help another teacher who had to be moved. I help her paint her classroom. I paint my classroom. My roommate, who was one of the new teachers there, I helped her paint her classroom. So there was just like a lot of work in that regard during the summer. So I wasn't really able to do a lot of resting.
mhm.
And then the school year started and I wasn't ready. I was not prepared. I had spent so much of the summer physically working and trying to get my space ready and trying to help other teachers get their space ready, that I wasn't able to lesson plan to the degree that I wanted to. And so I started the school year
Mm.
very scared of,
Oh.
kind of like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I started the school year out with 28 kids, and
Oh, so even
several of
more.
those kids, yeah. Well, I think I ended no, I ended up with 26, I think. Or maybe it was 27. It was something like that. But it was close enough in number that I didn't even like associate the difference. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, what's one more, you know?
Yeah.
Well, the one more matters, okay? The one
Oh.
more matters. Because unfortunately, a lot of these one more that I had, they just required a lot more from me than I was able to provide, especially being in a classroom with so many kids. I had several students. I had a couple students that needed to have ABAs with them at all times, which are these like behavioral specialists. So at a time, I could have 4 adults in a room all day, and that was super fun. It did teach me to be very comfortable teaching in front of other adults, though. At one point, I got so comfortable, I was like, bro, bring in the whole team. Okay. I don't even care at this point. I do what
Let's
I do. If you don't
go.
like it, you can teach. Okay. Like,
Yeah.
so in a way, like, I grew very comfortable, and I'm like, that's kind of nice, because it's kind of scary when administrators step into a classroom, because truly they are there to judge you. Like, it's not even like, oh, they're there to help you. Good
No.
administrators are, and they set that tone from the get go. But if good administrators don't set that tone from the get go, if an administrator steps in your classroom, most teachers feel automatically under the
Oh
microscope.
no. Yeah.
And so literally they're like freaking out. Do I have the objectives on board? What are my kids doing? Are they all writing? Do they, like, it's just, they're freaking out. So I'm very grateful that I grew very comfortable, because I was like, listen, okay, I got 28 of them in here. You got a problem with it? You can come and teach math in the front. Okay. Why don't you teach fractions to all of them? See how that goes for you. And of the 28 students that I had, like I said, I had 2 students that were needed ABAs, and I had several students that had IEPs, which are individualized education plans, and then I had behavioral students, and it was just a lot on just the way that I was mentally. I was mentally worn down, I was physically worn down, I
Mm,
was emotionally worn down, and
mm,
all the while, my communication with the Lord was kind of like going like this. At the end of the previous year, when I started to feel that sort of dimming, I didn't know what to say to God anymore, and so I kinda just stopped talking to him a little bit, not, like, completely, but it just became so redundant, it felt like. I was like, "I feel like I'm saying the same things." I also don't know how to communicate what I'm feeling, I'm just feeling what I'm feeling, and knowing that God knows me better than I know me, knowing that
yeah.
God already knows what I'm gonna say before I say it, I kinda just gave up a little bit and was just like, "You're there. I know you're there, and I know you're not gonna leave, but I don't know what to say."
Mhm.
And then in June, when I was home during that month, excuse me, I was able to do a lot of reading, and I started reading this book, excuse me, called Living Fearless,
Mm.
by
Jamie? Is it Jamie?
yeah, Jamie Winship. Mhm.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
have
by
that book. I
Jamie
haven't read
Winship.
it yet though.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
Highly recommend. And God illuminated some very, very important things to me. Um, and it was very solidifying. It was very comforting. It was very empowering and very invigorating because I felt clarity on more of me, on who I was. As I'm growing in my faith, ever since really encountering him when I was in college, I just wanted more. I wanted deeper. I wanted real. I wanted connection. I wanted to
Mm.
be loved. And you know how I had mentioned earlier, like there was still that sort of like I grew up with this sort of longing to be loved. Unfortunately, that did carry on into freedom and it has like I still see the footprints of it in my life at times where this longing that I have where I just want to be loved. I want to be
Mm.
like I wish that I could be raw and just like somebody looks at me and says, I choose you and
Mm.
I will choose you every day and I love you and I want you and I'm for you and I'll protect you and I'll help you no matter what. And
Mm.
that's who God is for me.
Yeah.
That's who God is for me. And yet at the same time, I longed to have that in a meaningful relationship here on earth with somebody. I longed to have that sort of like ride or die. Like, like I mean that literally, but also like kind of metaphorically. And so I'm like, I long to have that. And as I'm growing in my relationship with God and as I'm understanding more of who he is after encountering him in college, one of the things that keeps popping up is my desire to be loved, my desire to want to be seen, my desire to want to be wanted. And unfortunately, during one of those years, I um, had sort of like a breakup with that best friend that I had in college, and
Oh,
that really like wrecked me. Oh man,
yeah.
that now that I think about it, that probably contributed to
Yeah.
why I had such a bad end of the year. I'm just now making that connection. That makes a lot of sense. But
Yeah.
it was really bad. I've never been through like a boyfriend girlfriend breakup before because I've never been in a relationship, but I would think that it's similar. I wouldn't know, but I would think that it's similar. And it like wrecked my soul because this person that I had now written into my heart as somebody who was going to be with me for life, somebody who had confessed that to me, somebody who and I, she and I would joke like, "Oh yeah, man, we're gonna be with each other till heaven. Like you're stuck with me, dude." Like just things like that. For that relationship to be severed was heartbreaking for me.
Yeah, I can
And
imagine.
in a way, it sort of solidified in my head that, like, oh, you're not actually going to find that ride or die on earth, that person that loves you wholeheartedly, that person that's like that person that chooses you always, like that gives you unconditional love, love without requirements, love without reproach, love without anything. And I've noticed a lot of that sort of desire to want to be loved manifest in really close relationships I have with people. Like, I've seen it manifest in my relationship with Justin, in my relationship with Richard, in my relationship with Jonathan, in my relationship with my parents, in my relationship with my siblings, in my relationship with my best friend, in my relationship with like even people that I meet, like you or other
Hmm.
people at online events, in person events. The way that I want to like people please out of a sense of like accept me and see me as valuable. Um, and yeah, I have been called out repeatedly by
Yeah.
the boys in this, in love, of course, because they love me.
Yeah.
I know it. I just want to know it. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to go from here to like here, you know? And I think it's still on its journey. It's like taking the slow train there, but I think it is getting there because there have been many times where the boys have pulled me aside, even just at this Cali event.
Yeah.
Even just at this Cali event. I always love hanging out with the boys in person because there's always like there are always moments that are just so special. And yeah, I'm always moved to tears. Always. Always with the boys, am I moved to tears. And they yeah, often I'm called out on like, dude, like, we love you, right? Like we love you no matter what. And I hear them say that and it feels good to hear it. And I believe it
Hmm.
and it holds out for maybe like a week. And then like a week from then I'm like,
Never mind.
okay, but like, am I? But like, do you love me? But like, are you just gonna like turn around tomorrow and like reject me? Are you gonna like throw me to
Hmm.
this to the curb? Are you gonna like slap me in the face? Like kind of a thing. And so I think that I've seen that manifest more and more. Like it's a deep seated and a deep rooted lie that unfortunately I think I've believed my whole life. And I don't know why I couldn't probably sit here and tell you that's what therapy is for, but I I think the Lord, being so loving and gentle and kind that He is using life and is using my community and is using my brothers and sisters in Christ to uproot that.
Hmm.
But it's
Yeah.
happening slowly. It's
Yeah.
happening slowly, and I think that that's on purpose because if it happened all at once, I think I would die. I think I would disintegrate
Yeah.
before your very eyes, and that would be a tragedy. So the Lord, in His loving and gentleness, is being very gentle and loving towards me as He is trying to uproot that lie. Um, but yeah, my relationship with God just kind of kept evolving. And so when I was going through this crisis and going through this pain, I just was like, God, where are you? Like, what even is this? And so come July, come the start of the school year, and I'm going through this pain and I'm like struggling and I'm like really having a hard time. And I'm starting to see this Annabelle exist in this world that just isn't me. And it almost feels like I'm in the back seat and somebody else is driving. And she's cynical. She's sad. She's depressed. She's,
Hmm.
considering suicidal ideation. She's borderlining self harm. Like she's dealing with these really dark thoughts and she's feeling really deeply. And I think that part of the fact that I feel really deeply tends to mean that like I feel bad emotions really deeply too. And so, not that the emotion is bad, but like maybe like darker ones. And I just started noticing like, this is not me. Like, I'm just not I'm not bouncing back. And even my mom said that once. I was like, do you see this? Like I asked her once, I was like, am I crazy or do you see a change in me? And she's like, you've gone through some hard things before, but you've always bounced back. And
Hmm.
I just don't see the bounce back. I don't see you like dusting it off and getting back. I'm not seeing that.
Hmm.
And I think there was just a lot during that season of my life that led to me kind of just it weighed and it weighed and it weighed. And I just stopped. I couldn't tell you when, but I think I stopped talking to God and
Hmm.
started trying to cope with other things.
Hmm.
And I started coping with just like watching TV show, like anything to ignore and to fill my mind and to just numb my pain. Like
Hmm.
just and I didn't acknowledge like, "Oh God, I'm not going to talk to you anymore." I don't know, it all felt so heavy that the thought of even trying to go to God and talk about it felt like I was going to crumble, like
Hmm.
just instantly. And I'd crumbled so many times and cried so many times. I didn't want to do it again. I was exhausted. And so yeah, I would come home after school and I would just do my grading and my lesson plans and I would just numb myself or try to escape by watching some movie or some show so that I wouldn't live in the present. And then when I would live in the present, I would see a different Annabelle emerge and I'm just like, "Bro, who is that?
Hmm.
Who is that? That's
Yeah.
not me." Anyways, sad, depressing. Come September 15 and I'm reaching a point and I sit on my couch and it's a Sunday night and I conclude because this is a natural conclusion. I hate myself. I was like, "Oh, I actually hate myself." And I didn't mean that in a sort of rhetorical, funny way. Like I genuinely deep in my soul was like, I actually hate myself. If this is who I am, if that's the Annabelle that I am, I hate myself.
This
And I
was, you're
hate that.
saying September of last year?
No, yeah, 2025. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was like about a month into the school year, maybe a month and a half into the school year. And I'm just trying to cope. I'm trying to figure out people were noticing that I wasn't okay and they were coming up to me. "How are you doing? I know yesterday wasn't good. Are you feeling any better today?" And I'm like, "No."
Hmm.
Like, and it was just there was a lot. I wasn't necessarily feeling supported. I wasn't feeling like heard in my, professional place of work. Like there were a lot of things that contributed to that, but the bottom line was I hate myself because if this is who I am, then I hate this.
Hmm.
And so I texted my friend, which in hindsight, why would I do that, dude? Because she's gonna answer and like call me immediately. Like,
And now you're gonna have to deal with it, right?
if I wanted to, no, literally, it was like if I wanted to wallow in self pity and like hate myself, why would I reach out for help? It was like
That
my
was the Holy
subconscious is
Spirit.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. So, anyways, I text this friend and I'm like, so I have concluded that I hate myself, and yeah, there's that. Just a matter of fact, and she called me immediately and she goes, this happens to be one of my friends who lives in Australia, or I don't know if she's currently in Australia. Maybe she's in South Africa, but
That
she
Ruth?
happens to be Ruth. Yeah, she
Okay.
happens to be a counselor. So I called her, or she called me, and no, hello, how are you? Just so walk me through your thought process. How did you reach this conclusion? And what she did is she put her counselor hat on. And she was like, "And we are now in therapy. Therapy's in session." And
Let's
so,
go.
yeah. And so yeah, she was like, "Walk me through your thought process." And I was like, I just burst out into tears. I was like, "Dude, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I just hate myself. Like, if this is who I am, then I hate myself." And
Mm.
a couple nights before that, I had this isn't like super crazy, but it's crazy because I've never done this before. I went on a walk. That's not the crazy part. I went on a walk and I walked all the way to the highway. And I just reached the highway and was like, what if I just like didn't exist anymore? Like, what if I just,
Mm.
I think everything would be easier.
Ooh.
I'm only smiling right now because if I don't smile, I'll cry. But it's uncomfortable saying that. But
Yeah,
I
it
was
should
like,
be,
yeah,
but yeah, that's good.
because I think my kids will be better, my family will definitely be better. Things would be better if I just wasn't here because
Yeah.
I don't add anything to this world. I don't give any
Ooh.
goodness. Like there's
It's like an
nothing that I have
overload
to
of
give.
lies. It's an
No,
overload
literally.
of lies. Like
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah. And then I realized I'm like, it's like, I'm actually kind of hungry. I just walked back home. It's just like the thing that cuts
It's
through
like
all
the
of that is
spirit's
like
like, girl,
no
you don't want to not exist. You just
revelation,
want to eat.
no, no, like, no, like beautiful word from God, no, like nothing. Like, I'm sure he was saying something, but I wasn't hearing nothing. And I was just like, yeah, I'm kind of hungry. And so I just walk all the way back home and I tell my roommate, I'm like, yeah, so I walked on the highway. She's like, Annabelle, what? I'm like, I don't know. I just was stuck in my thoughts and just walked.
Oh
And
my
so when
God.
I told Ruth that, and I'm telling Ruth that, like, that, and I'm telling her the thoughts that I'm feeling, and I'm telling her, like, I often will skip breakfast or lunch because I just don't think I deserve it.
Oh.
And and she's just like, with all of her counselor training, because it takes so much to deduce that I'm depressed. She's like, red flag, like you need to take a break. And I'm like, I can't just take a break. That's not how this works. Teachers can't just leave. Okay, that's not how this works.
Mm.
And even if a teacher wanted to take a couple days, she has to make lesson plans for all those days for the sub. Like, teachers don't just leave. And with all of that in my mind, with the idea that, like, I like, just with how much my mind was clouded by my dark thoughts, I was like, dude, no, like, that's not even an option. She's like, well, then quit. I'm like, that's an even funnier option. Like, you're cute. I'm not quitting. Like, that's just, anyways. So she tells me, her things, and I do reach a point where I'm like not like as sad as I was. Like, if I was sad on a scale of 1 to 10 at the beginning of the call, a 10, I was like an 8.5. So, we made some progress. And so I end the call and I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, well, it's just, this is just one of those hard days. Like, every teacher goes through this. Like, this was just hard.
Mm.
I just have to push through. And mind you, at this time, again, I'm not really talking to God. I didn't like ignore him, but I'm just like, I don't think I hear him anymore. And then my mentor, who lives in Hawaii, who I met when I was visiting Hawaii, called me, just spontaneously cold called me. And he was just like, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, not great. And so I start like telling him everything. And he's like, yeah, you need to take a break. And I'm like, I can't just take a break. Like,
Two
I don't
people
think
now.
people like, what? Like, anyways, it was frustrating me because the more that people said that, the more it just felt like I was trapped because I
Mm.
just had to reiterate once again that I couldn't. And I reiterate once again that I couldn't. And I was just like, stop reminding me that I have nowhere to go. Like, I can't just take a break. And then he brings up this magical loophole that I was like, whoa, why did nobody tell me about this? It's called medical leave. And
Mm.
while it's not unheard of, it is unheard of when it comes to mental health. Because I had always associated medical leave with, you just gave birth to a human being and you clearly need time off. Or you like got into a car accident and your arm was amputated and you quite literally can't type. Like, like, there's something that's physically causing you to be unable to complete your job. And so in my mind, I'm like, this is not count for medical leave. And he just instantly just reality checks me. He's like, answer me this question. Do you feel capable enough to do your job right now? And I'm like, no, not really. He's like, do you feel safe with yourself? I'm like, no, not really. He's like, so your mental health is not okay? That is a literal crisis and that's a medical emergency
Mm.
and you deserve to go on medical leave. And I was like, with that logic, sure. Like, it made sense to me. And
Mhm.
so that night was a Sunday and I was like, well, what do I do? He's like, you do X, Y, and Z. So I called my superintendent and I said, this is the situation. I didn't really explain a lot because I was looking back at it, it just feels like a very, like, once again, an out of body experience. Like, I did it, but like I don't remember feeling like I did it. So I called him and I just said, "Hey, I'm not okay. And I will be going on medical leave starting tomorrow. So I will not be going into the classroom tomorrow. And I just wanted to let you know." Like, I didn't ask for permission. And he was like, "Okay." And then I called my principal and I told her the same thing. And she didn't receive it as well, but it is what it is. Cause once again, I'm not asking for permission.
It's not about them, it's about you.
Right. Um, I emailed over my lesson plans for the week and I drove home the next day. And I'm very, very, very grateful that I am blessed so
Mm,
much that I had a home that was safe enough to go to. I had parents that loved me and created a safe place for me to process. Um, I mean, my room and board obviously is covered, like my meals are covered, like I'm taken care of. And all I have to focus upon is like healing and just
mm,
getting better. And so I go to the doctor and they do like the mental health screening and come to find out I was diagnosed with moderate depression and anxiety.
mm,
Shocker. And so they were like, "Do you want to get on medication?" I was like, "No, not really. I want to try therapy first." And so she was like, "Okay, well, if you want to try therapy first, then I'm going to give you the full 3 months because medical leave lasts 3 months." She's like, "I'm going to give you the full 3 months and you can use that time accordingly." Let's see, October, November. Yeah. No, she gave me 2 months. I think she gave me 2 months, or maybe it was 3 months, something like that. And so while on my medical leave, it felt like I went on a spiritual retreat. It
wow.
was pretty much the same thing every day. I would wake up, I would eat, I would go out on the porch, and I would sit down and I would journal and pray and read the Bible and read books for like 5 or 6 hours.
Wow.
And then I would get up, I would drink some water, I would make dinner for my family, and then the day would end and I would spend the evening with my family. But it was that literally on repeat, like constantly for weeks and weeks, because I was desperate to just feel him again. I was
Mm,
desperate to be with him. And I was desperate to understand what I was going through. And so I'm going to therapy and I'm talking to God and I'm journaling and I'm talking to my parents and I'm trying to figure out my whole experience and just be able to use words to even express what I'm feeling and
mm,
what I went through and what I'm thinking. And all the while, um, chaos is kind of ensuing in the classroom because, again, when a teacher leaves, it's like taking a mother out of their home and expecting everything to be okay. Like the entire system revolves around that teacher. The entire home revolves around the system that that parent built, the routines, the materials, where everything is located, the students' mindsets, the students, their responses, the way that they just everything is based on the teacher. Every classroom is unique. And
mm,
so when I leave, chaos is ensuing. And so I'm feeling really guilty while on my medical leave because I'm like, here I am hearing the literal birds chirp and chaos is happening in the classroom.
yeah, well, chaos was
And
going on
I,
in your mind too, though. So,
yeah, yeah, 100%. Um, but it's really hard to not feel guilty
right.
when you are the literal catalyst for
Yeah.
something. And I'm not saying that the guilty feeling was correct. What I'm saying is it I felt it.
Right.
And
100%.
so I'm trying to process what I went through and what caused me to reach the point that I did, while also balancing, like, I shouldn't feel guilty for this, but I'm kind of responsible for it. So how can I respectfully and responsibly help while also recognizing that it's like I don't have to feel bad about it. And so like I'm trying to help the sub with whatever information that I can later on into my medical leave. And I keep getting questions of like, when are you coming back? And I'm like, bro, I don't know when I'm coming back. I didn't even know I was gonna leave. Like, I don't know. And all the while I am hearing the Lord's voice more, and I'm hearing his comfort. And there's just many, many moments of just crying. I'm just crying in his arms. I'm just with him. I'm journaling, I'm writing all my thoughts down. I think one of the things that was really beautiful when this time was a devotional that my dad gave me. He's big into books. Okay. He's like big into books.
Mm.
And so I have probably like 30 to 40 books from him that I get all the time. Like he's just big in books. So he gave me this one book that had like daily encouragement for people who are feeling depressed. Way to be subtle, Dad.
Mm.
And
He loves
then he
you.
gave me these. Oh, he loves me so much. That man.
Yeah.
Oh, he loves me. And so he gave me this other book that was like chapters on like when you're feeling lost, or when you're feeling lonely, or when you're feeling afraid or anxious or whatever, and like chapters on it. And so I would read these things because as I'm starting out this medical leave, I'm still at a place where I'm like, God, I don't even remember what your voice sounds like. I don't, I'm not hearing you. Like, so at that time, I needed direct words. Like I needed written guidance. Like I needed, I don't even know like how to say it. Like I need a stencil in a way of like for the Lord's words. And because previously I used to just go to him and just hear from him. And um, I just, I learned a lot about how God comforts us. And I learned a lot about, once again, he's a safe place to feel every emotion. And yeah, we reach a point in my medical leave where I'm feeling a lot more settled. I'm feeling a lot more healthy and happy and at peace. And I'm hearing from the Lord again, and I'm feeling his guidance. And then he throws in a freaking curveball. Okay. And he's like, so, that question that everybody keeps asking you, like, when are you going back? How about you didn't? Like, what if you just like quit your job? And when he said that, I flipped out. I don't even know what to tell you other than imagine if those wind up toys that existed, the ones where you like would wind it up and then you just release it and it would go. That was literally me in my backyard. I was freaking out. I was flipping out because I was like, there's no way that you just invited me to step away from this job that I've spent my whole life working towards. That
Mm.
is exactly who I pictured myself to be, who I understand myself to be, how I relate to myself, the picture of my future, like literally my identity. There is no way that you're asking me to step away from that.
Mm.
Surely enough, that he does. And deep in my soul, like I'm talking like deep in my soul, I had already accepted it. The minute he said it, I was like, yeah, you say go, I will go. But everything else that came bubbling out was just like freak out and panic and anxiety and worry and what about and what am I
Mm.
doing and well what's next and well then why, well then what, just everything just comes bubbling out. And the bottom line that I kept hearing him say was, you found your identity in a job
Mm.
and that's not you,
Wow.
so I'm going to take the job.
Yeah.
Essentially. And it wasn't a punishment. It wasn't
It's protection.
him saying, yeah, it's protection. And what it is it's like, it's father in beast mode. It's like dad in literal, like, honey, I love you, but this is hurting you. And you don't understand it right now, but I'm taking this away. And you're going to sit there and you're going to throw a fit. And I'm going to sit there and I'm going to hold you and I'm going to love you through this fit. But I'm
Yeah.
still going to take it away. And you're not going to get it back.
Mm.
Maybe ever. Who knows? You may get it when you're older and you understand it. but not right now because you have literally put your entire self into this job that the minute I take away, you're going to crumble. And baby girl, that's not what I want for you. That's not who
Mm,
you are.
wow.
And so he just was so painfully obvious with me that like my identity was the job. So the job is
Gotta
gone.
go.
It's got to go. And that has been an ever evolving growth um, journey because though I'm still only 25 because I just quit like 4 months ago. I really thought that I would have certain things at this age, and I thought that I would have certain understandings and certain circumstances, and just like to have literally all of that ripped away was
Mm,
so jarring for me. And on top of that, I am not only having to experience this myself, but I am now having to express this outwardly by beginning to answer the question of when are you going back with I'm not. And that elicits a certain response. And that certain response that it elicits causes this thing to rise within me of guilt and shame
mm,
that I made a mistake and that I'm wrong for doing this and that I am the problem. And
yeah.
all of those things start to rise within me the more that I'm starting to share that I'm not returning. And I tell my mom, and my mom happens to be the one that I go to when it comes to like big things in my life because she tends to be a little bit more level headed with her response versus my dad tends to freak out. So I go to my mom and I tell her, and her first question was, "Have you told dad yet?" And I was like, "No." And she was like, "Oh."
Oh boy. Mhm.
Because once again, um, not a part of the plan, not a part of his plan, not a part of my plan. Definitely not a part of God's either, if I'm being honest. And so I eventually tell my dad, and he's like, "Well, what are you gonna do?" And I'm like, I don't know.
Guess
I
it's as
haven't
good as
even
mine.
quit yet. Like, I haven't even quit yet. I can't even send the email. I'm such a chicken. I can't even send the email. Like, I don't know. And then I start answering questions from other people, like, when are you coming back? And I say, I'm not. And then that causes another ripple effect of consequences for the school and them having to find a replacement. And it just really was the breeding ground for shame and guilt
Yeah.
and all of that because I was exiting this time. I was exiting this period of my life where I had a very low mental space. And the way that I think I can most easily relate to that is like, think of it like this is the best way that I could say it. I'm sure there are much better examples out there, but I love to eat lime. Okay. So let's just follow with me for a second. I love to eat limes, and limes are a very high acidic fruit. And when I was young, I used to eat so many limes on all kinds of things that it started to wear down my enamel.
Mm,
And my teeth started to get like sore. Like I would actually like not be able to chew things because it hurt. And so I went to the dentist and I was like, my teeth hurt. And she's like, well, why? And I'm like, I don't know. And so she starts looking, she's like, your enamel's really broken down. Like, do you like eat a lot of things high in like acid, like a very high acidic level? And I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, do you like lemons or limes or like other things? And I'm like, oh, I love limes. I eat them all the time. And she's like, oh, well, you literally need to like refrain from eating limes for like years because your enamel's so worn down that it needs time to build back up.
not the
And
limes.
so, not the limes, bro. I freaking love limes. I don't think you understand. I'm obsessed with them.
Mm,
And so, having to step away from limes allowed my enamel, and also using certain toothpaste to build up my enamel,
yeah.
allowed my enamel to grow strong again. Is it the same that it was when I was born? Probably not, but it's stronger than it was. Now, to compare that and to use that analogy to what I was saying is it was like my enamel was super strong before, but then all the things that I went through was just constantly breaking it down, breaking it down, and breaking it down, and breaking it down. That I reach a point where it literally is in pain. And then I take a break and I realize the problem is the limes. I realize the problem is the circumstances I was in and I needed to take a break. And so I take a break and I'm starting to build that enamel back and I'm
Mm.
using the right toothpaste and I'm but it takes time. It takes time to build. And there have been many moments, even to this day, where I go to God and I'm like, God, I just want to feel like the old me. I want to feel like the Annabelle that was in college, that just met you, that was invigorated. And
Mm.
I want to feel like that again. I want to feel like the pre-depression Annabelle. I want to feel like her again. Where did she go? Like, I miss her. Like, I don't feel like me. And a lot of that is because I went through what I went through, and God has been very gentle and loving with me, reminding me that actually I wanting to be the old Annabelle isn't where my heart's desire should be, though it's meant from a sense of like, God, I want to feel your presence here again. What he is doing right now, excuse me, is he is making something new, is he is making something stronger, is he is using what was meant for evil for good. He is using this thing that I went through and he is using it for his glory. And he is teaching me so much and he is deepening my faith. And he's revealing, like, not even revealing, like, I'm seeing different sides of his character that I hadn't before and experiencing different sides of his love and his gentleness. And so, I'm still trying to build back my enamel.
Mm.
And it's very helpful to be able to like verbally process it by like talking to you or like talking
Yeah.
to other people at like the in-person event because it's allowing me to like communicate what I went through and then see God and how he moved through that.
Yeah.
And so as I'm like at the beginning of this, this realization that I'm stepping away from my job, I'm still very like my enamel's very weak. Like I'm still very much like I would say very vulnerable to certain things that before I would have been like, "Oh, that's guilt and that's shame." Yeah, no thanks. I'm a little bit more susceptible to them, I think, because of just like what I went through. And maybe that's a lie. I don't know, but I when people would like, their responses to me saying that I was quitting would cause these feelings of shame and guilt to rise up.
Mm.
Um that it wasn't until um I had a Zoom call with Jonathan where he just was like, "You have nothing to be ashamed of."
Right.
And when he said that, like it wasn't like I had never heard anybody say it's not your fault. But when he said it and then he proceeded to be like, "You went through X, Y, and Z. That's not your fault.
No.
And
Right.
you chose to do something that a lot of teachers wish they could do. And you did something that was scary, and that's brave. You did something that
Mm.
was
Yes.
hard, and that's bold."
Yes.
And just all of those things that he's saying to me, that's reminding me like, I have nothing to be ashamed of. I can hold my head up high because I did the right thing. And yeah, I remember when I was early on in my medical leave, my dad said something to me that I never would have expected from him, but I didn't know that I needed to hear. Is we're like having a really late night conversation, and he turns to me and he says, "It's not your fault." And when he said that,
Mm.
I burst out in tears because I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that. I didn't
Mhm.
realize how how much I had assumed that it was my fault and that I was the problem. And so having my dad say that early on and then having Jonathan say that a little bit later just has granted me this sort of freedom to hold my head up high and to be like, I did the right thing. And yeah, there's been a lot of growth that has been had since I've stepped away. I've understood more about shame and guilt
Mm.
than I think I've ever needed to understand, but I understand. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think God ever intended for me to understand them that well, but I do. And as a result of me understanding shame and guilt so well, I also understand grace and forgiveness
Mm.
and
Yeah.
love so well. And I was encouraged by one of my friends to start posting content again. Mind you, I've never really like, well, I guess I did for a little bit. There was maybe like a year or two in South Dakota, maybe a year and a half where I was posting some like teacher content,
Mm.
and I kind of just stopped doing it. I don't know why. I think I never like fell in love with it, I guess. I don't know why, but I just kind of stopped. And then my friend was like, "Oh, gee, you should like post a video about this." And I was like, "Okay, that sounds kind of fun." I love being in front of the camera. I love editing. I love all those things. And
I can tell you're
so I
doing
made
very well
this.
with this, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. And so I posted my first video and have been posting since. Um, I quit my job. Like, I sent the email and officially quit my job on November 15th. And then I posted my first video on November 20. And since then, the Lord has blessed and I've really loved it. It's been really fun.
Mm.
And it's been really cool because it's been yet another outlet to help me process
Yeah.
um, what I've gone through and to help me see it in a different light, to see it as a blessing, to see it as an encouragement, to see it as inspiration for teachers. It has been super cool to see the outpouring of people's loves in my DMs and the way that I have been able to pour into people. Oh, the amount of countless teachers that I've talked to in my DMs saying nearly verbatim what I've gone through, or like just the sentiments
Mm.
verbatim. And it just breaks my heart, dude. Teachers out here are struggling. Teachers around the world are struggling. And so it is truly a blessing that I have gone through this because he's using it for his glory. He's using it so that I can show him through this. Like, I can actually shine a light into his workings in these experiences. And so yeah, I think since then I've just been on this journey of like trying to figure out who I am. And I don't mean that like on a biblical, like, I'm
Spiritual
a
level.
daughter of God level. Like, I mean that more on like a personal level. And what I mean to say is, one thing when you read the book, which you should read,
Living
Living
fearless.
Fearless, highly recommend. One of the things that the Lord illuminated to me, that was super important in June, was how unique and empowered his identity over us specifically is. He
Mm.
calls you son, he calls me daughter, he calls you righteous, he calls me righteous, loved, blameless, above reproach, all those things, 100% true. Not with a shadow of a doubt do I believe those things. But let's get a little bit more micro. Let's look under the microscope a little bit. Who does he call you to be? Who does he say, Frank, you are specifically called X, Y, and Z? Annabelle, you are specifically called X, Y, and Z. And what I mean to say is, when you discover that God has called you specifically these words, there is this awakening that rises within you where you're like, wait, whoa, that feels like it fit like a glove. And when I was first reading that book in June, I had talked to God and I had invited him to tell me who he called me to be. And he had said to me that he says Annabelle is a brave and bold seer. And I didn't really understand what that was at the time, and I'm still not
Did
really
you say
understanding what
brave
that
and
is.
bored? I'm sorry, brave and say it
Brave
again?
and brave and bold seer.
Seer. I thought you said steer. Okay, seer.
Seer. And I didn't know what it was. And I still don't really know what it is. I'm understanding more of it, like little by little, which I think is a beautiful thing. I'm only 25. He's got my whole life to tell me what it is. But I know that I didn't know what it was because I didn't even know how to spell the word seer. Like, I'm like, is it hyphenated? Is it like two E's? Is it one E at the end? Like, I didn't even know. And then um, since then, the Holy Spirit has told me what the word is, told me its meaning, its Old Testament meaning, its modern meaning. And as I look back on that identity that he calls Annabelle specifically, I'm able to see how everything I've gone through from before he told me that that was my identity to after he told me that that was my identity to right now, I've seen brave and bold seer throughout my entire life. And he is maturing that within me. And he is showing me more of that as
Mm.
time goes on. And as I'm in the season of like, well, who am I? Because I exited this job that was my whole identity. And I literally compromised who I was for the sake of this job. That now, when I don't have the job, I've lost who I am. That's a red flag. And so now I am rediscovering my passions, going back to content creating, photography, videography, traveling. I've gone back to just like this joy that's in my heart. Like, I've gone back to who he has always made me to be, but it
Mhm.
just feels more mature. It just feels like the woman Annabelle instead of the girl Annabelle,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. And so it's been really cool to be on this journey. I've been able to travel a lot more, which has been super cool. I'm now working full time, working part time, remotely for Love Reality and helping them with operations and helping them with event planning. And I love that. I love working on the team. Bunch of weirdos, but I love them. Okay. All three of
They're
them.
your weirdos. It's okay.
They're my weirdos. I love them. And it's just going through what I went through, even just this past um, in person event. I was talking to Rich late one night and I just realized, like, to a degree, I was almost holding it like a badge of honor because I wanted people to look at me and say, oh, yeah, she went through something. She's worthy of being at this table. She went through
Mm.
something. And ew, like, I don't want that. Like, yeah, I want my badge of honor to be look at God in her. Like, I want my badge of honor to be a reflection of him. I
Mm.
want my badge of honor to be all about him and not about me.
Yeah.
I don't want my badge of honor to be what I went through. I want it to be what he went through,
Yeah.
what what he did for me and how I get to live that.
Mhm.
And so yeah, it's been really cool to be able to talk to people about this and learn how to communicate it more effectively and understand it better. The more that I talk about it, the more that I understand it. I even had many moments in this conversation where I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Um,
Awesome.
and so yeah, I guess that's where I'm at right now. God and I are on a sort of I feel like I'm going through my teenage years with him is the way that I've been describing it because like I know he's always there, but
Mhm.
every once in a while he breathes a little too loud and it annoys me. Not that he's done anything wrong because he hasn't done anything wrong.
Yeah.
But I think that in this season I'm just like I so much of what I'm so familiar with and comfortable with, the safety of my job, the safety of my identity within the job, the safety of my life plan, the safety of just all of that has been like shaken from under me, has been ripped from under my feet, that I'm like literally wobbling. And so many times I've gone to God begging, begging for him to just tell me what to do, to put me on solid ground again. And a lot of that has been because there's so many things I could do right now. Like, what a blessing. What an actual blessing to be able to have any opportunity that I want. I am young. I am unattached. I can go anywhere, explore anywhere, be anywhere, do anything. Nothing is holding me back. And initially, that was stressing me out. Okay. You know, back in South Dakota, when he was like, God was like, I trust you. And he said I could go anywhere. That was still within the confines of a job that I was comfortable with. It was still within the confines of a field and a plan that I had for my life. Sure, it might have been in a different state, but I was still going to be a teacher. Like, it was still within the confines of something I had imagined myself and understood myself to be. Now that that guardrail is down, the way that I've imagined it is kind of like, you know how in a bowling alley, when the little kids are bowling, they put the guardrails up so that the
Yeah.
bowling ball still makes it in. Yeah.
Hey now,
That's kind of
I
how.
put the guardrails up, Annabelle. What are you talking about? I do. I literally do.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that for you. um, and so, like, that's how I really do relate to how I like to give an analogy to him giving me freedom of choice when I was a teacher, because it was like the guardrails are still up. No matter what, I was still gonna like hit some kind of ping, you know, some kind of, what do you call them? What are the things called?
Pins?
What are the bowling balls hit? Yes, thank you. The pins.
Yeah.
But now the guardrails are down. Okay. I could go into the gutter. And
Oh
I was
no.
freaking out. Okay. I was
Not the
freaking
gutter.
out when God told me, when there wasn't even God told me. He wasn't saying anything, which was freaking me out because I was hearing his voice and he was there. But I was like, okay, God, what am I going to do now? Nothing. Okay, God, where am I going to go? Nothing. Am I going to stay here? Nothing. Am I going to go there? Nothing. Literally nothing. And I'm like, hello, knock, knock. Anybody there? Like, I know you're there, but hello, like, I
Mhm.
need you to tell me what to do. And he's like, what if I like don't? What if I like don't tell you what to do? What are you going to do? Freak out? Because that's what I was doing. I was freaking out. But since then, and I say that as in like the last 2 weeks. Okay, let's not be dramatic. I was freaking out until recently. Um, I have settled in more and more. I'm still settling in, but I've settled in to the beauty that is God saying, go and I will follow,
Hmm.
instead of I go and you follow.
Yeah.
Um, I'm settling into that more and more. And it's still really scary because I'm like, well, what am I going to do? Like, I'm just being more spontaneous now. Okay. I'm being spontaneous and I'm applying to things for jobs that are international. Bro, what? Like, why? Because I can. Because I can. Literally, that's it. Because I can. There's nothing me holding me back. My lease is about to end. I could literally go anywhere and do anything. Might as well move to Italy or Spain. Might as well. That's the natural next step. Duh. No,
Sky's
it's
the
not.
limit.
Yeah, well, sometimes that freaks me out. And so I think I'm settling more into the beauty that is that. And I don't want to take that for granted. But I also am so grateful that I have such a loving parent, because though I'm freaking out and this is such a beautiful opportunity, he sees me freaking out and doesn't look down on me because of it. He's not like even being like, oh, but you're like so blessed. You shouldn't even be freaking out. Like, he comes next to me, he sits next to me, and he lets me freak out. Like, he doesn't shame me at all. And once again, I think the
Yeah.
moral of the story is,
Hmm.
like, God is a safe place to experience every emotion, to go through
Yeah.
any storm, to weather any
Mm.
experience in your life.
Yes. I
And
like
he
that.
will never leave you and he will never forsake you. No matter what you go through, he is always there.
Hmm.
Always there. When you are in it, he is there. When you are not, he is there. Like, just like the Psalms 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing.
Yes.
When I am in the depths of Sheol, you are with me. You sit beside me. You make a table for me in the presence of my enemies. Like you are always with me. Nothing can separate you from the
That's
love
right.
of the Father. Nothing can separate you from God. Not depression, not anxiety, not loss of a job, not a loss of identity,
Mm,
not, a million options, not no options. Like nothing can take you away from his love. And I'm very grateful without like even being able to put it into words how grateful I am. I'm so grateful that God is who he is unwaveringly. Like God is who he is without ever changing.
that's right.
He is un he is unchangeable. And I love it. So that's where I'm at now.
Wow.
I didn't know how to end that. Sorry.
That honestly, I met you in California and I met you in Jonathan's house as well again.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not know your story was this powerful. Like this was good.
Thanks.
God is God has done a lot in your life. I can see it. And like and even seeing you in California and then seeing you at Jonathan's house, I had no idea you went through that. Because just as you're shining now, you were shining then too.
Oh,
So
that's
it's
sweet.
like I would not even know that that was something you're going through. So wow.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I think a lot of it just tends to do with like, I love being around people and I love to love. But I'm such a real and sincere and vulnerable and just like what you see is what you get. And so
Yeah.
like if you saw me happy, I was probably happy because if I
Yeah.
wasn't happy, you would have known. Like,
Yeah.
it would have been painfully obvious. You can ask anybody who knows me. They know what I'm feeling. Like ask Jonathan, Richard, like anybody, Justin, like it's painfully obvious. But praise God that he's been able to use what I went through for his glory because I wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing. Let's have prayer. Uh, Heavenly Father, I thank you for Annabelle. I thank you for her willingness to share today. I just thank you for getting her through the challenges that she has faced in life. She is your daughter, and you care deeply for her, Lord, and you were not about to allow her to suffer any more than what she could handle. So thank you, God, for delivering her. Thank you, Lord, for helping her to see her purpose and see her identity. And as she continues through life, guide her and bless her and strengthen her and help her, Lord, to continue to be that beacon of light for others as she comes in contact with them. We thank you in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Man.